"You're being paranoid again, babe." She said it with that soft chuckle, the one she used when she wanted me to drop something without a fight. I knew it well. It always made me feel like the bad guy for asking questions. I told her I'd noticed she was texting someone late at night again. She just smiled, kissed me on the cheek, and said I needed to relax. "It's work stuff," she added, like that phrase was the holy water to cleanse away suspicion. But it wasn't the text that did it. It was the voice. That voice I wasn't supposed to hear. It came 2 nights later, after a day filled with the usual routines. Dishes, emails, a slow Tuesday that smelled like burned toast and indifference. She was in the guest room, her makeshift office ever since her company went remote. I heard her start a Zoom call around 6:45 p.m., just as I was prepping dinner. She always turned her camera off, said she didn't like the way she looked in low lighting. At 6:53, I brought her a cup of tea, chamomile, her favorite. The door was closed, but I didn't knock. Just placed it by the door and turned to leave. That's when I heard it. A man's voice. Low, amused. Familiar in a way I couldn't place, but intimate in tone. "God, you look so good right now, even without the camera. Are you sure it's off?" I froze mid-step. My brain tried to rationalize it, like it always did. Maybe it was a joke? A colleague being weird? Then came her voice. Quiet, breathy, laced with a laugh I hadn't heard in months. "Stop," someone could hear. He laughed. "Don't worry, I muted my end." She didn't mute hers. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. Just stood there, the tea cooling behind me, my hand gripping the banister like it was the only thing keeping me upright. Her voice again. "He's downstairs. Making dinner or something." He. Me. She didn't even say my name. I backed away slowly, careful not to make the wood creak under my feet. I went back to the kitchen, turned off the stove, sat at the table. My heart was pounding so loud I couldn't hear the clock ticking. I stared at the wall, not seeing it. My ears rang with every syllable I wasn't supposed to hear. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. When she came down, she was all smiles and, smells amazing, like nothing had shifted in the world. Like she hadn't just carved a hole through the middle of our life with a careless whisper. I watched her eat, asked her how the meeting went. She shrugged, said it was boring, and changed the subject. I nodded, smiled even, and died a little inside. We met at a wedding 6 years ago. She was wearing a navy blue dress, her hair pinned up in that messy, elegant way women seem to pull off without trying. She stole my breath and gave me her number. I texted her before the reception ended. We built everything slowly, carefully. I helped her through her master's program, stayed up with her editing papers, made flashcards for her finals. She was there when I lost my dad, held me in silence on the floor of our first apartment. I thought we had something real, something that time would harden into permanence. But lately, I'd noticed her smiling at her phone a little too long, laughing at messages I didn't send. Always just work, always stop being insecure. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But that voice, I kept hearing it in my head like a haunting. It followed me to work, to sleep, to the shower where I sat on the floor some nights trying not to scream. A part of me still hoped. Maybe she was venting. Maybe he was just a friend. Maybe I heard it wrong. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't always show up in blood and violence. Sometimes it tiptoes in, whispers behind a closed door, and lets you destroy yourself with hope. The next morning, she kissed me on the forehead before heading out for coffee. I watched her walk down the driveway, her coat swinging behind her like a cape. She still looked like the woman I loved. But I had a new mission now, truth. So I started digging. First, I installed keylogging software on the guest room desktop. She rarely used it, preferred her laptop, but I needed a backup. Then I synced our Wi-Fi router to track all connected devices and activity. It felt wrong, dirty, like spying on someone I promised to trust. But what choice did I have? She'd already broken the vow. I was just picking up the pieces. Over the next few days, I collected breadcrumbs. 9 p.m. Zoom calls labeled strategy planning. Email threads with vague subject lines like follow up. A burner Gmail account she accessed in incognito mode. I opened it one night after she fell asleep with her laptop still open beside her. The first email subject line hit me in the gut. Last weekend was perfect. I clicked. It was him. The voice. His name was Derek. No last name. Just Derek. The email was short. Your skin still tastes like vanilla. When can we make the next excuse? There was a photo attached. Not of her. Of a hotel room. The kind with those gaudy velvet headboards and overpriced bottled water. I didn't open the photo. I didn't need to. My hands shook. Not with rage, not yet. Just disbelief. The kind that sinks teeth into your spine and doesn't let go. That weekend, she told me she was going on a retreat with coworkers. Team building, she said. I asked which hotel. She blinked. Oh, it's this little resort in the mountains. I'll send you the info later. She never did. That Sunday, I got my own email. An alert from the keylogger. Zoom call started. 8:14 p.m. Camera off. But this time, I wasn't just listening. I was recording. Because the voice I heard, it wasn't just flirting anymore. It was planning. And they didn't know I was listening. I listened to the recording 5 times that night. Each time, I hoped I'd misheard. That my mind had twisted things into something worse than they were. But no, it was clear. Unforgiving. She wasn't just having an affair. She was building a life outside of me. Derek's voice, calm and practiced, filled my headphones. Once the promotion goes through, I can relocate. We'll figure it out. You won't have to keep sneaking around like this. And then her voice, the one I used to hear whispering I love you at 2 a.m. He still thinks I'm just stressed from work. Poor guy's planning a vacation to reconnect. I almost feel bad. Almost. That word ripped through me. Almost feel bad. They laughed after that. A soft, conspiratorial laugh that made my skin crawl. There was no guilt. No hesitation. Just 2 people casually erasing the life I thought I was living. I wanted to confront her right then. Shake her awake and scream. Why? But what would that have changed? She'd lie. She always had a lie ready. So I waited. Again. But not passively. The next day, I started laying the groundwork. I contacted a lawyer. Her name was Mira. Sharp, discreet, and familiar with these kinds of situations. She didn't ask me why I wanted to file a quiet divorce strategy. She just nodded, took notes, and told me exactly what she needed. Timelines, financial documents, proof of infidelity. Proof I already had. I transferred half of our savings into a separate account under my name. Legally allowed, Mira confirmed. I changed my life insurance beneficiary from her to my sister. Updated the title on my car. Froze the credit cards we rarely used. Deleted her fingerprint from my phone and laptop. She didn't notice. Or maybe she didn't care. She was too busy planning fake work trips and Zoom calls that turned into soft moans and whispered promises after she thought I'd gone to bed. I started pretending, too. I acted more loving. Made her coffee in the mornings. Brought her flowers on Thursdays. I listened when she talked about stress at work. Held her when she said she felt disconnected. I was careful to never look too closely, never let the pain show on my face. Because I needed her to believe she was safe. Happy even. One night, she came home with her hair messy and a giddy glow she hadn't worn in months. She hugged me longer than usual, then whispered, "You've been so patient with me. Thank you for trusting me." And I said, "Always." I almost choked on the word. Because by then, I was reading their emails in real time. She'd told him she loved him. I stared at the screen for hours after reading that. I love you, Derek. It's getting harder to fake things at home, but I'll hold on a little longer. I don't want to lose what we have. I sat in the dark, watching those words like they were graffiti on the walls of my life. I kept thinking back to the time I held her when her mother died. The way she collapsed into me like I was the only solid ground left. I remember how she clung to me, whispering, "I don't know what I'd do without you." Apparently, she figured it out. A week later, she told me she had a team summit on the coast. She'd be gone 3 days. She looked almost relieved as she rolled her suitcase out the door. I stood there with my arms crossed, watching her get into the Uber. She didn't look back. Once she was gone, I drove to the storage unit I'd rented 2 weeks prior. Inside, 3 boxes labeled Wedding, Us, and Lies. I packed them myself. Our photo albums, the wedding guest book, the bracelet I gave her for our 5th anniversary, her old journal she stopped writing in 2 years ago, a bottle of wine we never opened, the dried petals from her bouquet, now brittle and dull. In the Lies box, printouts, emails, screenshots, the full transcript from the Zoom call she forgot to mute, a burned CD with the audio. I placed the Lies box on top. Then I left the unit key in an envelope addressed to her, with a single line. "This is the version of us you chose to bury. Now it's buried." She came back on a Sunday. It was raining. She looked different. Not guilty, just tired. Maybe tired of lying. Maybe tired of me pretending I didn't know. I met her at the door with her favorite soup on the stove, candles lit, jazz humming from the speakers. She smiled and said, "This is nice." I nodded. We ate in silence. Halfway through the meal, she said, "You're being really sweet lately." I looked up. "I'm just trying to enjoy what we have left." She blinked. "What do you mean?" I didn't answer. Not yet. Let her think. Let her squirm. Because the final piece hadn't fallen into place. Not yet. I needed one more thing. The moment when her two lives collided. And when it came, it would be perfect. It would be quiet. But it would change everything. The invitation was my idea. I told her we should host a virtual dinner party with her team. A casual, cozy get-together over Zoom. "It might help you reconnect," I said. "You've been stressed. Maybe being around your people will lift your spirits." She hesitated at first, eyes narrowing just slightly. "You want to meet them?" "I want to support you." That was the truth. I wanted to support her, right into the truth she kept running from. She agreed. The call was scheduled for Friday at 8 p.m. I spent the day setting everything up. Candles, wine, a nice meal. She wore that burgundy dress I hadn't seen in a year. She looked beautiful, radiant even. You'd never guess she was cheating from the way she smiled at me that night. The guests started arriving one by one in little squares on the screen. I recognized a few names from her email threads, laughed politely at their jokes, played the doting husband. Then he joined. Derek. No last name on the Zoom screen. Just Derek T. His camera was off, but his voice, oh, it was unmistakable. That same amused, intimate tone I'd heard late at night when he thought I was asleep. He greeted everyone, even me. I leaned closer to the mic. "Derek," I said, warm. "You sound familiar." There was a pause, just half a second too long. Then he chuckled. "Maybe I've got one of those voices." I smiled. "Yeah, maybe." Her hand twitched on the table next to mine. She didn't look at me, just stared at the screen like it was suddenly made of glass. As the group settled into conversation, I reached down and pressed record on my phone. Not for evidence. Not anymore. This was for me. A reminder of the moment everything came undone. The moment arrived 17 minutes in. We were playing a game, 2 truths and a lie. Her idea, ironically. Derek went first. "Okay," he said. "I once swam with sharks, I can't ride a bike, and I've been in love with someone I'm not supposed to be with." Laughter across the call. Someone guessed the shark story was the lie. But her face, it dropped for a second. Just long enough. I leaned in. "That third one's pretty specific," I said. "Being in love with someone you're not supposed to be with. That sounds painful." He laughed. "Life's complicated, right?" And then, I swear I didn't plan it, I reached over and clicked the mouse. And turned her camera on. Just for a second. Just long enough for her face to fill his screen. For everyone to see her expression twist into panic. She fumbled for the mouse, turned it off again, but it was too late. The damage had bloomed. His voice stammered. "Amanda." Everyone fell silent. Not because of her name. Because of the way he said it. Too soft. Too intimate. Like a man who forgot he was still on stage. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw it all. The guilt, the shame, the realization that I'd never been asleep. That I'd heard everything. Known everything. I didn't say a word. Just raised my wine glass and smiled. "Cheers, sweetheart." She came clean that night. Cried on the floor of our bedroom, knees tucked into her chest like a child. She said it started after the distance grew. Said I stopped listening. That she felt alone, unwanted. Maybe I did drift. Maybe I worked too much. Maybe I missed signs I should have seen. But infidelity is not an accident. It's a choice made 100 times, in texts, in secrets, in rooms with the lights turned low. I told her I forgave her. That part was true. Forgiveness wasn't for her. It was for me. So I could move on without carrying her weight on my back. She moved out 3 days later. I didn't touch her boxes. I just left the storage unit key on her pillow. The divorce papers came a week after that. I signed them with steady hands. People ask if I miss her. I miss the version of her I thought I had. The woman I believed in. The laughter we shared when it was real. But not her. Not the person who made me feel like a stranger in my own home. Sometimes, in the quiet of a Sunday morning, I still hear his voice. That one line. "You look so good right now, even without the camera." But it doesn't haunt me anymore. Because now I know who she really was. And more importantly, I know who I became. I was never insecure. I was right. She just wasn't ready for a man who saw everything and waited for the moment to show it. Quietly. calmly, like flipping on a camera.